Sure. I'm gonna say, okay, hi, Kim. Let me see it now. Here we go. Share. You need to let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep.
Cool. So, the professional paradox of self-knowledge coming out for creatives. So let's keep it light and breezy first. Let's start with, hello, who am I? My name's Daniel. I have a wife, a daughter, and two teeny tiny dogs. As Catherine Wire would say, they're the tiny kind that shiver a lot and piss out of their eyes. I work as a creative strategist and design lead at More Digital Studios. As you can see, I'm heavily tattooed. As you may have guessed, I'm non-binary and I'm bi. According to pretty much everything I heard throughout my entire childhood, my adolescence, my 20s, and even into my 30s, I shouldn't be able to be as openly and honestly myself and get to do what I do and have what I have. I am blessed enough to have amazing colleagues and an amazing family and friends, and I get to walk into high-level meetings and be not only accepted, but listened to and appreciated. This is my family, by the way, my daughter and my wife and me. So, what are we talking about? When Shai asked me to speak to you guys, and more specifically to speak about this course and the idea of power and identity and how it plays into developing a more resilient, diverse and inclusive society, I kind of really wanted to speak to you about this. The title, you'll have to excuse me, I love alliteration, it's like one of my favorite things, but I think we can step past that. But in kind of reflecting about my life and where I am today, I really see my queerness as a gift. It equipped me for so much more than I would ever have expected it to. The kind of deep introspection and stance taking that it took to kind of come to terms with myself, accept myself, and to finally come out, really gave me like an arsenal of tools that have not only benefited me in my private life, but have given me huge benefits in my professional life. And I think that's something that can be applied to anyone, queer or not. There is something in that introspection and the fact that we are all walking paradoxes, and that there is something in the personal truth, the knowing of self, that paradoxically for me in any case, has become a huge strength. By the way, if you're wondering whether the theme of Barbies will continue throughout the presentation, yes, it will. It's my presentation. I get to do whatever I want. So enjoy the Barbie one. And then here, why are we talking about it? What I really mean with the potentially slightly pretentious title is that I really believe that there is power inside all of us that really oftentimes gets left on the table. I think there's something that we can learn from it. And as I wrote in my description or the abstract, it's our jumping off point is the queer experience, because that's how I got here, or I realized it was a big part of how I got here. And I think that it can really be honed and you can benefit from it, even if you're not queer, like even if you don't recognize yourself in me or any of my experiences, I still feel like there is something to be learned here. Woo! So, there we go. So what is my experience? Well, I think I have turned out to be as far as possible from what my parents expected when they brought home this tiny little baby boy from the hospital. I grew up wanting to dance, I grew up wanting to play with Barbie dolls and My Little Pony. I was sensitive, and I often heard that I wasn't allowed to do the things that I wanted to do, that being different was wrong and that I needed to toughen up. As an adult, like, I now see that my parents basically wanted to keep me safe, to spare me the pain and suffering of being the odd one out, being outside, being picked on, being bullied, or being passed over for jobs or promotions. But for me, as a kid, what I heard constantly was, you are wrong. What you are is wrong. I grew up thinking that if I were to come out, I would be ostracized. And I had a really hard time understanding myself. I think that as humans, we find a lot of comfort and we learn a lot from storytelling, books, film, TV, but I didn't really see any one person or character that I could identify with. From an early age, I knew that I wanted to be Wonder Woman or Cher when I grew up, but I didn't really understand how that fit into society. So my path through life was supposed to be safe. I was supposed to get a proper education before I did anything artistic. So I went to university and I started studying maths. And I was so painfully, desperately miserable because I wasn't being true to myself. And in the middle of all this darkness and misery and whatever, I happened to go to an audition for the drama club's production of Romeo and Juliet. And I felt so strongly that this was what I needed to be doing, that I, after a long period of introspection, put together a PowerPoint presentation and a business proposal for my parents, who were bankrolling my education, laying out the benefits of an acting degree, even in conservative business. And apparently I was convincing enough to get their approval, and I started applying to drama school the next week. At that point, I had started the academic year already, so I was forced to take a gap year, and I was lucky enough to get a big check mark next to my choice. I got cast in a youth opera at the biggest opera house in the UK, and that then got turned into a film, and I got into the drama school I wanted to go to. I had got into the Central School of Speech and Drama, where a lot of my heroes, Vanessa Redgrave, had gone, and it was a dream come true. So fast forward, I had moved to London, gone through 3 years of drama school, been broken down, been kind of put back together, partied a lot, got an agent and was ready to go out in the world and become a star. But in my last year of drama school, I had actually done the thing that I'd always wanted to do when I was a kid. I had gone and taken a dance class, which then became many dance classes. And after drama school, I was kind of auditioning regularly. I was doing the kind of gigging actor thing, getting work and small parts in theatre plays and TV shows and whatever. But again, I felt the same thing that I felt when I was at university. I felt this core disconnect, that I wasn't, again, being true to myself, that I was doing something that wasn't right for me and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be. But I had this other thing in my life, this dream from when I was a kid, that I could stand on stage and dance. And I was lucky enough to get cast in a very bizarre TV show hosted by Graham Norton. Anyone from the UK, you may know him. Shy knows Graham Norton. And I got to get paid to dance for the first time in my life. And I was like, well, maybe I can do this. So I was saved up, moved to LA for 3 months, took 5-6 hours of dance class, 7 days a week for 3 months, but also got a lot of time for myself. I didn't know anyone, but I got to start afresh. I got to kind of reflect and be a new version of myself, because no one knew my history. No one knew who I was, what I'd done, who I dated, anything like that. So I got to kind of start clean, a break from my life. And ooh, I almost forgot. This was me as a little boy. This was me on the set of the film that I did. And then 10 points to the person that finds me in this sea of hopeful young faces at drama school. Ooh, weird things happening. This was me in my dancer period when I'd just come back from LA. So like, very that. And at this point, I was working as a dancer. I was touring with artists. I was doing really strange commercials in Prague for American insurance companies. I'm not quite sure what was going on here, but it was a weekend in Prague. We got to stay at the Hilton. It was cute. And then I moved to Stockholm in 2007. And that was obviously like a huge upheaval. And there were a lot of people saying, no, what are you doing? You work in London, you live in London. But I was like, no, this feels right. So I started touring here. And then I was in a boy band. And then I was in another boy band with the same people. We'll skip over that. And then I got to kind of put the different things that I did together. So acting, singing, dancing. I did musicals. This was Hairspray. Again, Hairspray, Some Like It Hot, Romeo and Juliet. I did Eurovision, where I sang and danced. I was a model for a while. I was naked on TV a whole bunch. More musicals. Got married to a friend on Eurovision in front of 80 million people, because, you know, that's something you do. And then I got married in real life. And kind of prior to this, I'd had another moment where I was like, my life is not giving me what I want anymore. I don't feel like I'm being true to myself. I think a huge part of that was also, as a dancer slash actor and all these things, I was constantly forced into a box. Like a lot of the time there was room for expression, especially as a choreographer, but the rest of the time someone else decided what you looked like, you were cast to look a certain way, and you were doing someone else's choreography. And that didn't really work for what I wanted out of my life. So I was lucky enough that my mother-in-law is an incredible art director, and I started assisting her. Then I moved into being an art director in-house, and then this little one came. This is Minu. This is my daughter. This is when she was maybe a couple weeks old. And she was one of the biggest kind of moments of introspection in my life, like one of the biggest pivotal moments that I have ever had, because she got me again to question my career choices in my life. And that's when I realized that I didn't want to be in traditional art direction anymore. I wanted to move into digital, so that's when I went to Hyper and met the beautiful Shai Benesh. It was also a moment when I realized that me not having come out and not having really kind of expressed who I was or come to terms with who I was wasn't just about me anymore. It was also about her. And so that caused me to reflect a lot, to look around me and kind of dig through my life and go through a lot of stuff that I went through in my childhood, especially with my dad, and have some really tough conversations. Lots of tears, lots of screaming, but it was really important for me that she not go through anything that I went through as a kid, that she never feel like she had to be something or someone, and that she would be loved no matter what, just because of who she was, and that was okay. So for me, that was a huge point when I started actually presenting as non-binary as well. That was when I was not afraid anymore, because I didn't have anyone that I really needed to worry about hiding it from. And I think what I've really learned can kind of be broken down into a few separate things. For me, there is huge power in introspection. Mine came initially from a place of fear and a huge discomfort. But because of the fact that it was practiced again and again and again, introspection has become a powerful tool for me. It lets me kind of ransack myself, ransack my life, and see how I need to change it to be true to myself. And one thing that comes from introspection is integrity, not in terms of I'm doing things my way and fuck you if you don't like it, but much more, this is what I want, this is what I believe, and it's okay if you don't agree. Which you can only really do if you have humility as well. I think for me, having that huge kind of coming out in my life was also like, that taught me to be humble. It taught me to see things from other people's perspectives. Because if my incredibly conservative father was to accept me as I am, I needed to see the world through his eyes before I could actually get him to understand the world through mine. And there's power in empathy. It's really something that kind of goes hand in hand with humility. And it's also something that has helped me hugely as a designer, as a leader, as taking care of clients, in presenting, in everything I do. Like, empathy plays a huge, huge role. And there's really power in being yourself. There is a huge amount of power in knowing yourself, understanding yourself, and being comfortable with yourself, whatever that self may be. Mine is perhaps an outlier. Like, I don't look like everyone walking down the street. So maybe kind of I had to fight to be myself, but even if you didn't have to fight to be accepted for who you are, understanding who you are for yourself on your own terms is incredibly powerful, and it allows other people to be relaxed in your company. It allows you to walk into a room and have people feel that. You walk into a room and people understand that you're comfortable with yourself because you give them space. You give them the space to be themselves. Like, it's really been so interesting to be in meetings with clients that I would never expect to either accept or understand me. And they've been endeared to me because of the fact that I'm really comfortable with myself. And I think that's a real, like, that was a huge epiphany for me. It was like, okay, all these things, like, I mean, these tattoos are called job stoppers for a reason. Like, they stop people getting jobs. That's why people don't get them. But for me, they've been talking points with clients that are 50, 60 years old that work in the most traditional realms. And it's just been this huge kind of awakening for me. Like, oh, it's fine, because I'm fine with it. I'm not worried about your reaction to it. It's just part of who I am, and I accept it. So people accept it, which has been huge for me. But how can you apply this? And I would actually really like to, if we can do this in a Zoom setting, open this up and kind of have a discussion around how you think that we can apply this. Shai, is this going to be a shit show, or is this going to work?
Well, let's do the hyper way. Let's just try.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can see more of you. Hey, beautiful people. So, all right. So, does anyone have any thoughts about how you can apply this, even if you're not in the queer space or you're like anything like that? Does anyone have any thoughts?
Self-inquiry.
Mm-hmm. The silence is deafening. It's cool. Okay. You know what? We'll do this instead. We'll go to some. Woo! There we go. Share. Do you see my screen? No, you don't see my screen. Now you see my screen. Okay. Let's do some reflection instead, and we'll speak about that. So, from what I've discussed, I would love to know what resonated with you. I would like you to take some time and think about 2 moments in your life that were pivotal for you, when you either made a pivot or a change in the way you thought, and to kind of reflect about what they were and when they were. And then just ask yourself, like, did they lead to change, and what that change was and what it meant for you? And then what you can take away from that, and this speak, my brain is not working, and you can take away from this discussion together. So the reflection and the discussion together. So if I give you guys like 10 minutes, and then that we come back and we speak about it, and then we have a little bit of an open Q&A. Does that sound good? Cool. I'll leave that up there. 10 minutes. I'll see you in a bit.
Just to mind you guys about the time, there's still another 2 minutes. "30 seconds.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the sharing portion of the show. Hi, I hope that was interesting. I understand this is like a really personal topic, but is there anyone that would like to share their reflections? Just throw your mic on and speak.
I can jump in just to break the awkward silence.
Yay, thank you.
Okay, so the first thing that came to mind was just starting a regular meditation practice. And I would say it was a really slow change, because it's so weird to just sit with yourself in silence. I think a lot of us have been taught to be constantly like looking for stimulus and to learn things, and not to really turn the eye inwards. And I think it gave me a lot of kind of different perspectives, being able to not identify as much with one singular person or kind of a made-up identity, like both the one that kind of society puts you in, but also the one that you yourself often creates and believes. And then secondly, I wasn't sure if I would take, because I had I wouldn't say like a mental breakdown. I would more say like a psychosis in my early 20s from just being in a different country and doing too much things, partying a bit too hard, which I would say led to like me getting on a path of being, or like firstly being super burnt out, and then going into a path of yoga and meditation and eating really healthy and going plant-based. But then I kind of landed on doing a professional Thai boxing match in Thailand a couple of years back, which kind of led me to, because I wanted to try out what would happen if I would step into a really crazy environment. So I wouldn't be able to kind of, I guess, what you've done with with dancing as well, especially in like the Eurovision Song Contest and things. You don't know if you're going to black out or if you're going to be super, like if your body is going to freeze. And I wanted to put myself in one of those situations just to see what would happen, because nothing crazy had happened for a while. So I thought it was time. And that gave me a lot of kind of trust again in my body, mind. And also it gave me time to reflect because I hurt my leg. So I wasn't able to do yoga, or I went to Bali after Thailand and I thought I was gonna do a lot of things, but I was mostly just like meditating and laying around because I couldn't move really.
Was there anything was there any big change that kind of came out of that introspection, or was it like, was the actual doing of it, was that the change in and of itself, or was there anything that kind of came out of it?
I think doing of it was really, like, especially the fight, was just being completely in the moment, not having a single moment to lean back on past experience or think about future. And I would say afterwards, it might have been more of, because I had done yoga and meditation daily for a long period of time, but then it kind of led me to ease into being more spontaneous and flow more with life instead of having these really set up routines. And I think that's quite usual for me, at least. It's really usual that I'd go 100% in, and that could be with anything. That could be with food. It could really be with anything. So having really a set of rules, like I'm gonna meditate half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening, doing that every day is quite simple. But being like, I'll just try and be in a flow state or a meditative state throughout the day, or I'll meditate when I feel like it, can easily turn into I won't meditate, I will watch Netflix and just don't do, like, it's such a balance. And for me, I think those two experiences together brought me into a quest to find more balance in life and to be more aware of the tendencies to kind of go 100% in either direction.
Thank you for sharing. Anyone else?
I can jump in. Oh, go ahead.
It's okay.
Is it me?
Go
okay. Yeah, Daniel, this has been really such beautiful already, and I'm loving the Barbies. But I wanted to share that I felt I resonated with when you spoke about moving to LA, how you really could kind of be this new person. You know, you could reinvent yourself. And when I moved to Sweden, the opposite way from the States to here, that was when I really understood myself, because I removed other people's perceptions and expectations and projections and opinions, all of those things that they had from my life, even if they're well-intended from my loved ones. Like, I could really step aside and be like, okay, what do I want for myself, and figure out who I am as my own person, which was definitely difficult. But like, yeah, I don't know, like the move being that I only knew my partner when I moved, and now I've really evolved into being comfortable with myself, more comfortable with myself. I still, of course, have insecurities. I'm human, but like, then kind of married to that at the same time, similar to what Thomas was saying, that I went into yoga teacher training after moving to Sweden, which is something that I was always interested in, but the opportunity presented itself. And you know, I started out doing yoga for like, you know, getting that, you know, lean, long yoga body, kind of that typical stuff coming from New York as well. Like, but then it's really led me into this space of not doing, but being, and really accepting myself for, yeah, just slowing down, like the importance of slowing down, especially being in New York and American. I think there's this like go, 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 do, keep up, go faster, go harder, go stronger, go longer, like all of these things. And now my yoga practice is much more of an intuitive, restful state than it is about like, keep moving, you gotta sweat, if it doesn't hurt, it's not worth it. Like, it's really evolved my mindset. And yeah, so I would say that what you spoke about and what Thomas has spoke about is kind of similar to how I've developed, I guess.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Matthias, did you want to go with your insane background?
Yeah. Mine's more like a life thing, totally like accepting yourself and stuff like that. I found mine when I was 20 and I got my cancer diagnosis. And then I like all of the things from my like teenage years where everything was like flossy and partying every day and stuff like that, just got erased because I realized my life could have ended, and I didn't even like appreciate the smaller things in life, enjoying being outside, enjoying the rain, just enjoy seeing your loved ones. And it got me thinking like, why am I worried about seeing my friends or moving when I could be outside, because I wasn't allowed to be outside for 6 months. So it got me to really appreciate life and be like, I don't care about the bullshit about, oh, the latest iPhone, oh, I need this, I need that. I'm like, I need to enjoy this, I need to enjoy myself. So I found like a path to like doing what I want that can benefit me and my health. And that's kind of like how I'm here now. And like just enjoying stuff and being like, don't have too high expectations of people, because then they will disappoint you. So this is just like, being who you are is just so important.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Anyone else? Any thoughts?
I can go. It was just like to say something like contrary to what you were saying. You were saying that like it's a pivotal point in your life that causes a change. Where for me, it was more like always looking back to see how I was like as a child. Especially if like you're queer or something, you really need to look back, because people say you're supposed to be this way. And I was like, and I look at videos of when I was like 3 and going to 10 years old and going, you know, I was always the same. a little bit like slinky, a little bit stupid, but like super like, you know. And then I was that, and by looking at backwards at who I was, then I knew. And also in memories of yourself, you know, then you don't really just have to do what someone else says you are. And they're like, oh, but you were never this way. You were never this like queer, you know? And I was like, yeah, I was. And I had evidence. So yeah, I think it's good to look back at how you were, because you don't really change that much.
Yeah.
I would say.
No, I mean, I 100% agree with you. I think that's also something that I did a lot. And like every pivotal moment, as I framed it, it was like, kind of the weight of my life's experience that has helped me make the change to move on. Like I mean, I've been like fucking Madonna throughout my life. I've reinvented myself like every 10 years and it's fine, it's whatever. But like you say, like there is something in your past that makes you who you are. And I think that's also, in that introspection, it also helps you find the puzzle pieces that make up your life as well. So yeah, thank you for sharing, Jonathan. Anyone else? Okay. Someone wrote to me on the chat and asked me what my thoughts were about having a very clear story of yourself and not having it, in relation to the idea of having a fixed or a growth mindset. And I think for me, I don't think I expressed it, because for me it's such a fundamental part of who I am, but it bears saying, is that I don't see the self as being something that is unmovable or complete. It's like this amorphous blob that just evolves over time. And for me, evolution, growth, change are a huge part of who I am. And I think who we all are. I mean, all of you have come to Hyper because you are of that mindset. Like Hyper for me, like it was like walking into a room and meeting a group of people that think the same way that I do, that have this, oh, I'm constantly developing. That's how life is kind of way of thinking. So for me, I think when I discuss the self, it's very much just understanding like the narrative and looking back and seeing the path of your life and like putting the pieces together to understand where you are now. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, like in 5 years' time, I may be presenting as a man on a daily basis. I may go full out and transition. I have no idea. That's one thing that my life has taught me. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Like if you had asked me when I was 10, where are you going to be when you're 40? I would not have said here. If you'd asked me when I was 20, where are you going to be when you're 40? Wouldn't have said here. 30? 4 years ago, maybe. The kind of the change of who I am and what I do has slowed down a lot since I had a kid. She's brought a lot of gravity to my life, and life has a tendency to kind of revolve around her. So it's kind of slowed me down a little bit in how much this changes all the time. Apart from like fillers and Botox and all that stuff, but whatever, that's just it's day to day, it's whatever. So is there anything else that anyone wants to share, or do you guys have any questions you want to ask me or anything like that? I'm, as you may have noticed, quite open and honest, so fire away.
When and what did you study type?
Sorry. Go, Vic.
Go, Victor, go.
When and what did you study at Hyper?
2016 to 2017, interactive art director, which I believe now is design lead. Yes, Shai's nodding, everyone's nodding. That's what I studied and that's when I did it, yeah. Was it you, me?
Yeah, and it's so nice having people having job studies as well. Just wondering if you felt like starting in this industry, which can be quite conservative in some areas. Just were you afraid of being judged for these tattoos, sort of?
Yes, but at the same time, like they're not going anywhere. I had them before, and for me, like a huge part of Hyper as well was like finding a group of people where I could be myself and be creative and be productive and be professional. And I took that Hyper experience into my professional life. I made sure that I found workplaces that were not only accepting of me, but encouraging. And for me, then like having a team of designers that I get to lead is also like, it's incredible. Like for me, it's just like, it's also like another, like I'm in the right place right now, which is really, really nice. Yes. Anyone else?
Yeah, I was thinking about when you say there is power in humility, empathy, integrity. I believe a lot of us are like that, and maybe outside Hyper Island, it's more like people are a little more like sharks. I'm just generalizing now, but how does that fit in? Like in if you have a little more of a sensitive and delicate soul in an environment that is more harsh, maybe?
For me, it's really been about making sure that I'm in a place where I feel safe. I've had experiences where we've had, for example, a client who was a misogynist in charge of a team of other misogynists. And my CEO, when I explained it to her, stepped in and dealt with the situation. So, like, having that network, making sure that you are surrounded by people that do think the same way as you, has been really important for me as well. Like, there's no denying it. I'm not sure that I will be able to go into any situation at all, or wouldn't have been able to at the start. Now I feel a lot more comfortable with myself, and I feel that the power comes from being okay with it. It has meant, like, the integrity and humility and empathy has meant that as a sensitive person, I have been hurt. And it has meant that I've also walked away from opportunities because of the fact that they didn't align with my values. So it's not always the easiest path to walk, but I do strongly believe that there is power in it. Did that answer your question? Good, I'm glad. Anyone else? Anything you like?
I have a question, actually. You mentioned you were in boy bands.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need some names.
Okay, the first one was Star Pilots. They then, like, we left, they recast it, and then they did Melodifestivalen. Yeah, and then the second one, I actually don't remember the name of it. It was 2008, so it was a long time ago. I blame it on that. But if you want something funny to watch, go to YouTube and Google Melodifestivalen boy band. I think it was an opening act in Gothenburg, 2011 maybe. It's very cheesy. Very, very, very cheesy. Like, very cheesy, with Sarah Dawn Finer and oh my god, someone's found it already. The power of the internet. Yeah, enjoy. Yes. So that was that. Another life. Anyone else?
I'm curious
Who do
as
you,
to.
oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm good at doing this.
Yeah, me too. You go, girl.
Okay, it's just who do you look up to, like, admire, or like, yeah, just like anybody that you would watch their TED Talk or read their books or listen to their podcast, whatever?
Okay, my first, like, huge inspiration was, as I said, Cher. I think she's a person who throughout her entire life has very much been, I am who I am, and y'all can just like it, or you can step along, please. Thank you very much. Other than that, RuPaul, apart from the way that she speaks about trans people, like, before that shit, like, RuPaul is a huge inspiration. Eddie Izzard is a huge inspiration for me, especially as, like, a teenager in my early 20s, like, coming out, standing on stage as a comedian in women's clothes, boobs, makeup, heels. That was huge for me. In terms of, I mean, Shai, help me. What is the actress's name who was in Orange is the New Black? The beautiful, beautiful trans woman. Anyone help me? Drop it in the chat. Laverne Cox, thank you. David, Annalie. If you get a chance, listen to her speaking with Jeffrey Boyer Chapman on his podcast, and she also speaks to Brianna Brown, I think, on her podcast. Incredible. Like, She is so articulate and intelligent, and like she's been huge for trans visibility. Like she's amazing. India Moore, another huge role model. She's amazing. Yeah. Yes, she is fabulous. Julia. Oh, and if you don't listen to it, listen to Startup, the podcast. It's incredible. Like, it's got nothing to do with my idols, but it's incredible. Like, go listen. It's amazing. Yes. Who was fighting with you, Marcy, to speak? Was it you, Pierre?
No, it was me. But great question, Macy. And I was just a bit of lag because I wrote up Startup to listen to. I have no idea what you talked about with the RuPaul thing. I just know that AG and the Queen was like one of my top series lately. Like that, I mean, RuPaul acting in that was
so you
amazing. What?
You don't watch Drag Race?
RuPaul's Drag Race? Yeah, I've been watching it a bit, but like the series, I thought that was so fucking amazing and funny. But my question was actually about how do you deal with like reflecting, and do you kind of set out time for yourself, or is it organically occurring, or?
It's been both. Since when I was like 10, I started doing martial arts, and a huge part of that was meditation. So that was kind of my natural reflection when I was young. And then it's been everything from, like, I love being alone. Being alone is one of the best things in the world, especially when you have a child. It's fucking amazing. But nowadays I run. I run, and that's my alone time, my thinking time. If I have anything that I'm going through, I need to work out, I run, or I do yoga. But I generally have to have some kind of active meditation nowadays to reflect. But also I am a hugely introspective person. Like, I've kind of controlled it a lot now as an adult, but when I was a kid, like, I would rehearse everything I was going to say at least 10 times before I said it out loud. So it's just been like this constant, like, over-analytic, not particularly healthy, but now I think I've kind of got a lid on it. It's fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Professional, personal, childhood, anything?
I was wondering about what you just said, that you would rehearse everything. Do you think it was because you were afraid to show yourself?
I think it was probably both because I was afraid to show myself, because I was afraid of looking a fool. I was brought up very much with like a huge respect for language and like the power of words. So for me, if I was to open my mouth, I would have to be saying something that was thought through and considered. So it was kind of a mix of both, I think. But yes, fear has played a huge part in my life, definitely. Ask another one.
I have a question.
Yes.
Like, growing up, people were like, oh, you don't have to throw that in my face. I was like, yeah, whatever. But you know, that idea of like throwing yourself in the face, which is like nowadays I really accept as a thing I do. But then especially like being in hyper, you have to be really like sensitive, like culturally, emotionally intelligent between people. So how do you balance being unapologetically yourself and also being like very hyper?
I think I'm unapologetically my core self, but there are certain topics that I won't discuss in meetings or with clients or with new employees. Like I very much have like there is a scale of me, and you will get different scales depending on how well you know me, but the core is still the same, and I'm still very open and honest. But I may not discuss certain things with people I've just met. But this generally comes with no matter what the situation. So. Yeah. anyone else? Or are we wrapping?
I can throw in a question about the previous thing we talked about. Like, how did you overcome repeating everything to yourself 10 times before you said it? Like, what was the concrete thing you did?
Oh, that's a very good question. To be honest with you, I think it was just forcing myself to not. I discovered quite early on, and I like to be in situations that scare me and put myself in situations where I'm not 100% sure that I know what I'm doing. And that meant that I couldn't rehearse 1,000 times before I said anything, because stuff happens. Like, I mean, that's one thing when I speak to my team about like presentation and things like that. It's like, you can have a framework of what you're going to say and you can know all the points that you're going to hit, but you also need to be able to respond in the moment and be aware of what people are saying to you and how they're reacting and things like that. So I think, yeah, throwing myself in at the deep end, I think. It's not fun at first, but it definitely helped.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I say something about it? Because I'm so relate to this. And myself, like as a kid, I was always thinking like a million times before saying something, because I always also got the comments of, you know, that my voice is too feminine and that I need to bust it up so it will sound like more masculine. And reflecting on it as an adult, I realized that a lot of time, like in order for me to actually like throw myself to the deep end, would be to accept the fact that I'm not starting from a lower position as I have been taught to. That, you know, the fact that my voice is this way, or that like I am more playful, or I think in a different way, throughout my childhood taught me that, okay, I'm actually starting from a lower position and therefore like I cannot do mistakes. So everything needs to be kind of on a perfection level. Mm-hmm. And just like from my personal reflection, I realized that the moment I realized that I'm not starting from a lower position, I was able to allow myself actually like to not think, and also to radically accept that I might do mistakes and it doesn't mean anything about me and it doesn't prove anything to the other people about who they think I am. Yeah, it's just like I was thinking so much about it while listening to all of you, and it's just like really, it's important for me to say, because, well, Daniel and we had so many conversations, and yeah, and if there is something that personally I would really use this stage to say, that something that Daniel really taught to me was this idea of radically accept who you are to all of your, like, and all of your shades. And once you do it and you transcend it, it's the most powerful tool that you can have in order to actually develop yourself, but also develop other people. Yeah, so personally, thank you so much, Danielle, for that.
Thank you, Shai. Cool. Are we done? Does anybody have anything else they want to say? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Going. Cool. Then I will say a huge thank you for taking the time to listen to me today. I hope you got something out of it.
Thank you a lot.
Cool. And yes, Shy. Cool. Take care, guys. Enjoy your hyper journey. It's a trip. And you're in good hands with Mr. Shy. So take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Coming and being so honest and beautiful.
Thank you. Okay. Take care, guys. I'm gonna jump out. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.
So all of you, I'll just say, so now it's lunch, and then right after lunch, you will have a lecture by Penny. She will be calling from London, and she will talk about community building and conscious co-living. Yeah, and just like to continue what I said earlier, Ila, the lecture that will come after Penny, so we managed to move it like 15 minutes later. So you're gonna have some time to stretch, jump, I don't know, do a headstand or whatever you just need to do. Cool. So enjoy your lunch and see you in 1 hour. Ciao, ciao.